What's up guys? In today's video we're going to be showcasing a crayfish care video 101. And crayfish are very interesting creatures, so let's just dive right into this, alright? So first of all, hiding spots are necessary for crayfish. If you don't know what crayfish are, they're basically bottom dwellers and they don't swim around too much, so it's essential to keep hiding spots. Keep things like logs, PVC pipes, caves, rocks, etc. Crayfish love these things since they are fresh water. If you don't have hiding spots, they'll probably die of stress. So that's why it's important to keep a lot of them in your aquarium, also to hide from different predator fish. Secondary, we have water conditions. So water conditions are really important for crayfish, but they are pretty hardy creatures, so you shouldn't need to mess around with it too much. Crayfish usually stay between the 64 degrees Fahrenheit to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on what species you get, but that's overall the average. If you keep the crayfish in a higher water condition with higher temperature, you're going to see it grow quicker but have a shorter lifespan, and if it's in cooler water, you're going to see it growing slower but have a longer lifespan. Sorry. Anyways, next up we have food. So why is food so important for crayfish? Well, just like any other creature, even though crayfish are hardy, they need food. They don't need it often. Once a day is completely fine for your crayfish, and they can even go about a week without eating. But the more you feed them, the better. Just be careful to not overfeed them, or else that could cause a lot of pollution in your tank, and you would not want that. As you can see here, this crayfish is in a regular habitat. It has hiding spots, has a nice space to go around with, and the food that I will recommend feeding your crayfish are either things like algae wafers, crab cuisine. If you have gourmet Ultra 17 blend, it's really good for your crayfish. I would not recommend color enhancing pellets or anything like that, because crayfish can get really addicted to those and that's not going to be healthy for them. Now, second to last, we have tank mates. Crayfish are naturally predators, so tank mates wouldn't be a good idea for your crayfish, and if you're planning to put a crayfish in with other fish such as tetras, goldfish, minnows, plecos, and other stuff like cichlids, it would not be advised to put them in there because they will and can kill your fish. They're naturally predators, like I previously stated, and as you can see, they're basically miniature lobsters. They're mainly nocturnal, so it's important to have a day and night cycle for these guys, or put them in your separate tank with no other fish. These guys are also bottom scavengers, but what you should also know is the tank size. Since crayfish grow roughly 5 to 6 inches, it's important that you keep an average tank size of 10 gallons per crayfish, since if you have anything less, they may try to escape. And speaking of escaping, a few extra things you should know about crayfish is they are master escape artists. They are able to use anything that they can find in their tank to escape, such as lengths on poles, different accessories in the tank. Some of them are even able to climb walls. They're really smart and intelligent creatures, so make sure to always have a lid on your tank at all times, or else they will escape. Crayfish can also breathe above water, but not for long before they end up dying of dehydration. So make sure to always, like I said, keep a lid on your tank. These guys also grow 5 to 6 inches, and they have a pretty good diet, to be honest. They're mainly carnivores, but they can also eat things like celery, cabbage, vegetables, different stuff like that. They eat live food as well, like fish, bloodworms, shrimp, different stuff like that. Also, a few extra things to note. Don't over stress your crayfish by accident. If you're gonna do any kind of tank changes, get them in a separate place before you do that, because a lot of stress can cause different diseases such as shell rot, which is extremely difficult to treat and will probably end up killing your crayfish. Disease is a very known part of crayfish. Even though they are hardy, they're not as hardy as you may think. They are pretty resilient, but they're definitely prone to sickness if you don't take proper care of them. Do weekly water changes, no more than 1/4 of your tank, and I'd say the minimum you can keep these guys in is about 10 gallons. If you want to keep multiple crayfish in the same tank, that is not a good idea at all. Also, it is very crucial that you have an air pump in these guys' tanks, because the problem with not having an air pump is improper air circulation will cause these guys to die, since they do need air on the regular. It's important to always keep a filter, but you don't necessarily need a heater depending on where you are. Since crayfish water tends to be around 70 degrees, you will definitely not need a heater. Also, it's important if you want to keep multiple crayfish in the same tank, have at least a 30-gallon tank for roughly 2 crayfish. These guys are very territorial, they're cannibalistic, and they will definitely eat each other. So, what have we learned here? We got hiding spots, water conditions, food, tank mates, tank size, and a bunch of extra stuff. I'd say this would have wrapped up the video, but here are potential tank mates for crayfish. First of all, we have neon tetras. Tetras are really small and fast fish, and odds are your crayfish will not catch them. It could catch them, but it will take a lot longer. So if you're willing to risk your fish by having another crayfish or having a crayfish in the tank with it, then go ahead. But it's highly advised to keep your crayfish in a separate tank. You can easily tell the difference between a male and a female crayfish by flipping them over and looking at their bottom side. Crayfish come in different colors and morphs such as orange, red, white, blue, and even multicolored ones, like the orange ghost or the pink sakura, or I don't know, man, a lot of other different crayfish. So anyways, the point is, your crayfish is very easy to keep because most people don't understand that crayfish don't exactly need a specific water type. It's kind of up to you, which most people really can't grasp. Since most fish need a specific amount of temperature, pH, nitrates, ammonia, but your crayfish won't really need any of that. All that really matters is temperature. pH kind of matters, but everything else is kind of side. So you don't exactly need to do anything revolving around that. Crayfish are very easy creatures to keep, and they're great scavengers, especially in a community tank. If you have a tank above 100 gallons or 75 gallons, you can probably keep a crayfish in there if you want to plan to have an ecosystem or something like that. As long as you have some kind of working environment for your crayfish, then yeah, sure, go ahead and get one. Now, the final topic that we'll be covering in today's video is going to be different prices for crayfish. So, as I previously stated, there are many different morphs and types of crayfish, but each one goes for a different price, depending on how rare or exotic they are. Most of these crayfish are tank bred. Some are wild caught, but I would not recommend catching a wild caught crayfish and bringing it home to your tank, because most wild caught crayfish never ever get used to tank environments. So that's a must. Now, you see here, the normal crayfish that you typically find in your average pet store like Petco or PetSmart would be white crayfish, blue crayfish, or possibly orange crayfish, but nothing else. You would probably have to get that from a certain website, probably Aquatic Arts or something like that. In fact, I'm getting a orange neon fireball crayfish from Aquatic Arts, so if you don't mind, go ahead, check that place out if you're looking for a crawfish that's exotic and rare. These guys do go for a lot, so do not be surprised by their prices because these guys are extremely rare. Now, I hope that covered all for today's video. If you have any crayfish related questions or even fish tank related questions, drop it down in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.